Why aren't they allowed to have nukes if other countries have them? Let's talk about it real quick. If you pay attention to the Middle East, right? If you pay attention and look at all of the Middle Eastern countries, especially the Gulf nations that are nothing but carve-outs by the U.S., like Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, even Saudi Arabia, right? How many of those countries have nuclear weapons? What's the country, at least as far as I can remember, what's the only country in the Middle East that has nukes? Hint, it's a tiny little country near Palestine. They have nukes. But no other Middle Eastern country has nukes. I don't think Turkey even has nukes. If I'm not mistaken, Turkey doesn't even have nukes, right? But this little tiny country does. And there's a reason for that. And I'm not going to really discuss it in this video, so stay tuned on why those countries in the Middle East don't have nukes, and that tiny little country does. I'll get into it. But the topic is Iran. Why isn't Iran allowed to have nukes when other countries have nukes? You know, China has nukes. Russia has nukes. Tiny Hat Nation has nukes. United States has nukes. And there's some other countries that might have some. North Korea is believed to have nukes, right? But why is it an issue if Iran wanted to get their hands on a nuke? As we already know, in the world of geopolitics, nuclear weapons are like a deterrent. It's kind of like if you got a bunch of people with AK-47s and you ain't got one, and all you got is a handgun. Those people with those AKs, they can easily, they can overpower you. But then when you get your hands on the AK like they got, they're a little bit more hesitant to bother you. That's what nuclear weapons are. And I don't like nukes. I don't think any country should have nukes. I think you have to be a sick individual to even conjure up the thought of something like that. You have to be sick in your mind to create a weapon to destroy your fellow human being. Don't you just find something wrong with that? I just think overall it's sick for a country to even have something like that. That's something I don't never hear people talking about. You know, it's funny because we live in a country that they demonize guns. They don't want us to have these little measly guns, but it's okay for them to have nuclear weapons. It's crazy, right? When you think about it. But Iran is allowed to defend itself. The whole argument that Iran doesn't need a nuke, it's kind of like a moot point when you see exactly what's happening with Iran right now. They're being attacked by two nuclear nations, and they don't even have nuclear weapons to defend themselves. I guarantee you, if they had nukes, one nuke, whatever, some Tiny Hat Nation wouldn't be attacking it. The U.S. wouldn't be attacking it. But they're attacking them. Why? Because they don't have nuclear weapons to deter it. That's why. And that's why they don't want them to have the nuke so they can do what they're doing to them now. I don't understand what part Americans don't understand. You hear Americans say this all the time. We can't let Iran get a nuclear weapon. Well, damn, you see what's happening to them now? They don't have a nuke, and we still bombing them. We bombing them right now. And why? To stop them from having a nuke? If anything, it's going to make them want one even more now, right? Case in point, if I'm being shot at with people with AKs and all I got is a Glock, I'm going to get tired of being shot at with these people with these AKs. I'm going to want to get me the same thing they got. Like, in other words, they're shooting at me with AKs, and all I got was a Glock. But they also have bazookas. I don't even have a bazooka. So now I want to rephrase it from the AK. The AK would be the equivalent of the U.S. firing missiles into Iran, right? And Iran firing back their missiles, their 9mm, right? But the U.S. they have the big stuff, the bazookas, that they can crush somebody with a Glock with ease, right? So now the other country, if he had a bazooka, they're like, okay, well, damn, we're not gonna attack him because he got the same big stuff we got that we ain't pull out yet. That's what it's all about. It's all about deterrence. But ask yourself this: why don't they really want them to have a nuke? It's related to the reason why none of the Middle Eastern countries have nukes. That's why. It has nothing to do with Iran threatening to wipe Tiny Hat Nation off the map. It has nothing to do with Iran being an imminent threat to the United States 6,000 miles away. It has nothing to do with that. When you think about it, the United States, maybe one of the reasons why, I know the real reason, but maybe one of the reasons they don't want Iran with a nuke is because, is it because they're afraid that Iran might want to do something back to them after that 1953 coup? I'm just saying. I don't think that's Iran's even thinking about that, but it goes back to like slavery days, like when the white supremacists, they might be scared that black folks might want to retaliate against what their ancestors did. I don't know. So sometimes when you're afraid, you show it in different ways, because the U.S. had absolutely no reason to overthrow Mojahideen and put in that Shah. See, a lot of you Americans that you're following this war, you don't even understand what all of this is really about. You don't. You wondering why they saying death to America. You don't know the reasons why. You think they just woke up one morning and just said they don't like America. No, it's a reason they're saying they don't like America. And for those reasons, you would feel the same way if it was done to you. If Iran overthrew one of our presidents back in the days, Harry S. Truman, whoever was president, what if Iran overthrew them and put in their own leader? Wouldn't you have a gripe? Like, wouldn't you have a sore spot against Iran if they did that to us? I know I'm talking to a bunch of idiots because, a lot of times Americans don't have that kind of capacity to think like that. They're so stubborn. They don't really look at the world from that lens. They look at it from their own bubble. They don't look at it from another person's perspective. They don't look at it in other people's shoes. They're only looking at it from the American point of view, and that's dangerous. And that's why we are where we are today. But I think Iran should have a nuke. Any, small countries need a deterrent against the people that do have nukes, that want to push them around and might want to take their land one day. They realize, well, damn, if they don't have any nukes, we could just go in there and just stomp all over them after a conventional war or during one. Because they ain't going to fire no big bazookas at us because they ain't got no bazookas. So we going to keep hitting them with these AKs. And if, we ever decide to, we could threaten them with our bazookas. And then they'll just lay over and just give up. You see? Stay tuned, because I'll explain to you why they really don't want Iran with a nuclear weapon. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. This is Rebel World News. Hope you enjoyed the video. Catch y'all later. Y'all stay safe out there.